In the end of 2016, one of the most important things to do in administration is have more data on less space. Let's see how Microsoft help us to achieve this goal. Hi friends, this is Nick from iNobi Solutions, and today I'm going to look into data deduplication. This is not a new feature, of course. It was added in Windows Server 2012, but Microsoft decided to redesign the whole idea behind the deduplication. Of course, in 2012 there are a few limitations related to how big the volume that you want to deduplicate is, or how big are the files that needs to be deduplicated. But before we go into this, let's say a few words about the deduplication. What exactly is deduplication? It basically is a mechanism that identifies and removes deduplication within data without compromising the data integrity, and has the ultimate goal to store more data on less space. So in general, what it does, it segments data into small variable sized chunks and then identifies the duplicate chunks, replace the chunks with and the copies with a reference, and then it uses compression to compress these chunks. So in general, what it does, it's going to look into the data that you have, and it's going to find any information that has several appearances, and it's going to compress this data so that in general you will have, for example, a share that is 100 gigabytes, but it's going to take around 80 gigabytes on your disk, so you can use the rest of the 20 gigabytes to store more data. And of course this data is going to be compressed as well. So what are the enhancements that deduplication has in 2016 compared to 2012? It's because I said it's going to support volumes that are up to 64 terabytes instead of 10 terabytes in Windows 2012, and it's going to support file sizes that are up to 1 terabyte instead of the 2012 that was not a good idea to use deduplication on files that are around 1 terabyte in size. So there are of course other important features like support for nano server or support for cluster rolling updates that was not present in 2012, but of course this is a thing that you can read on TechNet if you have more information, if you want more information. And requirements for the volumes that you can use for data deduplication is that you cannot or it's not a good idea to use deduplication on a system or a boot volume. The volume might be partitioned using the MBR master boot record or the GUID partition table GPT format. So and of course it needs to be NTFS or REFS file system. It's not a good idea to use deduplication on USB drives, and in general the data deduplication is not available for client operating systems like Windows 10, for example. So let's start with the demo. I'm going to install a deduplication on my server that I've prepared. Basically, the deduplication is a role within the file services added in 2012 and 2016. And for my lab, I have a single server that I've prepared for a file server. The only thing that I want to do is I'm going to open the disk management just to configure the disk that I've attached. I'm going to make the disk online, and I'm going to initialize. Of course, you need to be initializing the disk with master boot record or GUID partition table. I'm going to use MBR for now, and I'm going to create the simple volume that I'm going to use an NTFS or you need to use for deduplication RAFS. exFAT is not a good candidate. So I'm going to leave the default NTFS, and I'm going to finish the process so we can allocate the space. Now that we have the disk and the volume already present under my computer, I'm going to open the server manager, go to manage, add roles and features, next, expand the file and storage services, and then file and iSCSI services, and in here you will find the data deduplication role that is available. So I'm going to click next, and install the role. And during that time, I just want to say what are in general a good candidate for enabling data deduplication on. So Microsoft are saying that data deduplication can be used for few different things, like shares for general use, that you have different folders and files that are used by your users during the day. So this is a good candidate, but depending on the data that you want to enable deduplication on, the deduplication is going to compress and provide additional space in a different way. So for example, as I said, general file shares are a good candidate, but it will compress the data, and the available space that it can free up is around 30%. Of course, for software deployment shares, the data deduplication is a good choice, because in there you have different MSI packages, different EXEs that are sometimes the same, so the deduplication can save you up to 50-60% of your data. Of course, it's a good candidate for data deduplication is VHD libraries, and this can save up to 70-80%, and VDI deployments, virtual desktop infrastructure deployments using Hyper-V, are also a good candidate and can save around 60-70% of the space available. The last thing that Microsoft mentioned is a good candidate is the virtualized backups. So backup application running as Hyper-V guest, saving backup data to mounted VHDs can be also data deduplication can also be enabled there. So now that I have the data deduplication enabled, you don't need to make a restart on the server. The only thing you need to do is go to the file and storage services and go to volumes. In there you will see present your volumes that you have. This is my boot volume. Of course the system reserved volume is also present in here, but this is the E partition that I will use to enable my data deduplication. So if you right click on the volume that you want to enable data deduplication, you will see that there is a configure data deduplication task. So if you click on here, a small window will appear, and of course data deduplication is not a high-tech advanced thing. It's going to do what it's supposed to do, and this is only compress data and provide more space to be available for you. Of course, there are different scenarios that data deduplication is still not compatible with, so in order for you, or before you enable data deduplication on your shares, be sure that you check what are the options that are available to work with data deduplication, and make sure that you make your plan correctly. So for example, I was doing a migration in the past month, and I used data deduplication with DFS replication, and it was working pretty much really well. Of course, Microsoft are saying that DFS replication is working just fine with data deduplication. So let's continue with configuring my data deduplication, and under here you have data deduplication disabled, the general purpose file server, that this is the option that you're going to use if you are enabling data deduplication on a volume that is used for general file services, of course. The other option is virtual desktop infrastructure or VDI infrastructure. I've heard rumors that it can compress up to 80-90% of the VDI infrastructure, and terabytes of data can become gigabytes, which is amazing. And the last option is virtualized backup server. Of course, this is the option where you have backup applications running as Hyper-V guests and saving backup data to mounted VHDs. Of course, this is again related to VHDs being compressed. So in my case, I'm going to use the general purpose file server. And here you can see that I have the option to say what are the files that I want to be deduplicated. So when you have a file share, for example, when you have a newly created file, the deduplication will not occur before this file reaches 3 days. So because few topics are saying that deduplication can decrease performance, Microsoft on the other hand are saying that after the redesign of the deduplication, it's pretty much the degradation of performance is pretty much none. You'll not be able to find any, but just in case, if you want, you can change this number to a bigger number or change it to less. The other thing is you can add extensions to be excluded, and of course Microsoft are saying that using deduplication on Exchange databases or on databases in general, it's not recommended. So don't enable deduplication on volumes that have for example, Exchange databases, SQL databases, Active Directory databases, or any logs related to it. So in here you can add any custom exceptions that you want the deduplication not to work on them. And if you look onto the bottom, there is a set deduplication schedule that you can use to enable the background optimization. So in general, the deduplication will run as a low priority task, and you can configure throughput optimization on a specific dates and times. For example, if during the day your file server is really being used, heavily used, you can configure the data deduplication to work during the night so that you can make sure that there is no performance degradation during the day. So in general, if I leave the default settings and click apply and click OK and click apply once again, I will see that the only thing that it's going to change is there is a deduplication rate right here in percentages, and it will say what is the deduplication compression that was done on my volume. So now that I've configured deduplication, of course, I've went ahead and copied some files, and the files pretty much consist of Windows Server 2016 ISO file. And let's see if I'll be able to compress or use deduplication to compress this information so we can see how basically this is working. So what I've did is I've configured the deduplication files order than 0 days so that I can go ahead and deduplicate the files that are currently into my volume. But what I'll do is I'll open a PowerShell as administrator, and what I'll do from here is I'm going to try and manually start the deduplication jobs so that we can make sure that the deduplication is working as it should. Let's see what will happen. So let me just open a PowerShell as administrator. Yes, and there are 3 tasks that I need to start in order for me to start my deduplication jobs, and they are start, dedup job, and I'm going to choose the volume, and the volume is E, and I'm going to start the type, which is going to be optimization. Press enter. Okay, it's currently the optimization, the schedule type is manual, and the start time you can see right here. There is a progress bar and the state is currently queued. So I'm going to monitor this this job to see if it's going to start configuring my volume. And by using the command get dedup volume E type optimization, I will see that there is a 15% progress currently, and the state is currently running on volume E. So if I check the optimization from time to time, it should change. Of course, I can see that there is a start time in here, and the progress is pretty much doing really fast. So I'm going to pause the video and see when the progress is at 100%, and we can resume from there. So now that my optimization job finished successfully, you can see that it completed. I can go ahead and check to see, if I refresh the settings right here, if there is any deduplication ratio that was configured. And you can see that using the ISO files of the Windows Server 2016, which are around 5 GB each, I've copied this 4 times, so I can have pretty much the same files and see how the deduplication will free this space. I can see that it made a compression ratio of 77%, which saved me around 15.7 GB of data, which makes my disk, which is currently 40 GB, currently available with 35.5 GB. And if I go ahead and open this PC, I will see that this space is still available for me to store any additional information. So in general, if I open the properties in here, I will see that the size is around 20 GB, but instead of 20 GB, it's only using around 5. Isn't that cool, guys? I think it is. So using the deduplication will make your life as administrator and basically working with more free space available for you than the free space that you even bought when you buy your hard disks and add to your servers. So this is again a thing that you need to check and you need to plan prior to using it because there could be applications that are not compatible with this, and you need to carefully plan what are the shares for you to enable deduplication. So in general, this is the video of how you can install and configure data deduplication, and I think that this is a great feature that almost every administrator should take advantage of. This was Nick from NLB Solutions. If you like the video, you can always subscribe to NLB Solutions. It's a channel that dedicates on technology and how to make an IT administrator life easier, which is a thing that I pretty much am sure that most of the people look into to make their lives easier. If you like the video, you can always hit the like button. If you dislike it, you can always hit the dislike button and leave a comment to tell me what could be improved in my future videos. Of course, as you already know, I'm responding to almost every comment in my channel. So if you have any questions, you can always put them in the comment section below and I will answer them as soon as possible. This was Nick once again. Thank you very much for viewing and see you soon.